This is part 3 on how to create a full page HTML slider using React. On part 1, I discussed about how you can do it in Vanilla JS. On part 2, I discussed about how you can do it in Angular. And here I'm going to try the same thing using React. Just like in the Angular version, you'll first have to install Node.js. And then you can go to Create React App to see how to install it. So we copy this command and go to our main project repository, paste it here, and give the name of the app. Like that, and enter. So why I created with a simple letter is because React doesn't allow me to start an application name with a capital letter. I have already added it, and then later I went and renamed it to React. So I can stop this for now. So let's say it goes correctly, and then I rename it to React. So this is how the project will look like. And this is my src folder. It has an app.js. What I have done is I have come here and removed all the default code that they are using. And inside my index.css, I've copied the same thing that I did before with the margin 0 and the font family and the font size. And within my public folder, I've come here and imported the fonts and given the title as full page slider ReactJS. So since we are using the CSS preprocessor SARS, we have to make sure that is installed. Unlike in Angular, it doesn't come defaultly installed. So I'll come here and go into my React folder and make sure to install it. npm I means install and node CSS. So after that is finished installing, I can go into my package.json and make sure that is there. So this is the version that I'm using. This is the React version I'm using. So this is above 16.0. That means I'll be able to use something called React hooks, which I'll be coming to later. So to create a component, unlike in Angular, you'll have to manually write a directory name and then write the JS script. So this is how it looks like. I'll be coming to this later. To write the style file, I'll have to write the component name .module.scss. The reason why I write module is because I want everything in this component to the CSS within this component to stay in that component itself. I don't want it to leak out. In Angular, this is done by default, but in a React app, you have to type .module. You have to import the classes like this in your JavaScript. There are two ways to create a component in React. One is use the class-based approach, and the other is use the functional approach. Before the introduction of React 16.8, all components which uses state had to use the class-based approach. After the version 16.8, all functional components were also able to handle state with the power of React hooks. Here I'm using a functional approach. So to define a component, I say const and the component name, and I pass props, which I get from outside. And what I do is at the end, I export it. And in app.js, I can import that component and use it here. React does not use HTML directly. It uses something called JSX, which is a different syntax, which you write in your JS file itself. For some reason, my IDE does not realize that this is a React app, so I'll have to import this project again without these other things like Angular and the Vanilla JS project. So for this, I'll open and I open this separately, I can say this window. Now it does not give me an error. I removed the implementation logic so that we can implement it again. We are using useState, useEffect, and useRef React hooks. The SCSS file is the same as the other two projects. To start off, I'll copy my pages array and make it a constant. But for React to know that this is the state of the component, I have to use this hook. So I'll use this hook and pass my array as an argument. And here, this returns an array which has the value itself and a method to change this value. So for that, I'll use array destructuring in ES6. So I'll call the method setPages. So now I can use this method to change this value later on. For this classes array to work, we can use the CSS modules from React. So we can call this classes dot animate sliding left without directly having a string there. So what this does is it will go here and capture this class, which is this. Then I'll copy my change page function from the Angular application. Copy this. And have it below this. So I have to name it cons, and this dot pages will not work. We can directly call this pages, and this code is all the same, but we'll have to refactor this code because the way React references refs is different from Angular, and we don't need this. I'll explain you later. I'll have this element like that. So you can see, unlike in normal HTML, I write class name because this is what JSX uses, and I'm having a ref called withRef. I'll have to implement this now. So for that, I can use the useRef hook. One thing I forgot to mention is, unlike in Angular, you can't directly change array elements like this. So you'll have to copy this pages into another array. So what I'm doing here is, this is a deep copy, and at the end of this loop, I can have this, and I can set pages to this new array. So right now, whenever I change these values, I'll have to use setPages to assign it again to this. Also, I'll have to change these classes the way I did here. So I copy that, and without directly having a string, I'm calling it this way. Yep. Also, I'll rename this withRef to pagesRef because it does not make much sense. Pages, and also here. Then we can refactor this code. We don't need this anymore. And instead of native element, you can write current. This is how React uses the DOM. And same here. And also here. Now here, I'll have to loop through all these pages. So for that, what I can do is have one curly brace and type pages dot map. So this is a loop, and for each page I'll be having this JSX syntax, and I'll copy the HTML, or sorry, JSX. So here I have to give something called a key in React, because React needs to identify each iteration uniquely like this. So I can give page.number, which is this, so this is unique. And to join these classes, I can use the same kind of syntax, except without class, I'm giving class name here. And unlike in Angular, to bind it, I can have a single brace rather than curly braces. And for onClick, I'm having onClick here and giving an arrow function, and I'm sending the page number. I'll have to implement this method. And to get the images, I've stored the images in assets. You can see in slider. So for React to know, it uses Webpack, because it on the compile time it does not know where this is. So we can use require syntax and give the path, and we dynamically give the page number, which will fetch the image it wants. And for all tag also I'm giving the heading. Now we can have the pages element. So I'm giving the class name pagination, and again I'm looping through this pages array, and here also I'm giving a key, which is the same page number, and the class name having the active element. If the active element is true, I'm giving the active class, else I'm giving an empty string. For the click event, I'm giving the pages method and passing the page number. Now I can run this application and see whether it works. So for that, I'll go into my terminal and type npm start. So it works. If I click this button, it goes to the next page, and like that. But the only thing, it does not autoplay. So now we'll have to implement that method. In order to implement a timer, I'll have to use the useEffect hook, because in functional components there is no constructor which runs only once. So I'll have to use useEffect, and for the dependencies I'm going to pass pages, and then I'll have my timer here. Give it 5000 milliseconds. Also, I need to add the arrow function here. And now I'll copy my autoplay logic from the Angular application. And paste it here. So we don't need this anymore. Can remove this. Same here. And remove from here as well. Finally here. So now the set timeout will work, but the problem is this method will create a set timeout every time this method runs. So in useEffect, when the useEffect runs, we'll have to destroy this timer or reset it again. So there is a return method. In this return method, I can clear the timeout. When the set timeout goes after 5000 milliseconds, you have to clear the timeout. Now we can save this and let's see whether the application works. Yeah, it's working. And even if we change the page, after 5000 milliseconds, again it will run. If you change it, it resets to 0 and it goes like that. Now to see the file size, I can build this application. I can write npm run build. It's creating an optimized production bundle, and that will be under my build folder. So I can open this in my Finder, and I right click this and open it through my terminal. Now I can write live server to open up actual server in my environment, and now I'll run this in my incognito to see the actual file size. Go to network and JS, hard reload, and you can see it's almost 268 KB. So compared to Angular, Angular has more resources. It was like 300, but it's not much of a difference. And the CSS, all the CSS is compiled into one CSS file. This was in my index.css, and this is the CSS file which is here. So that's it. I've created the same application using Vanilla JS, Angular, and React. I have compared all these technologies. If you're going to write a big application, I'll recommend you to use a framework like Angular or React. So you can see it's quite different, but it has its own unique advantages and disadvantages. I'm trying to make videos like this every month. So if you like this video, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, and this will make it visible for all the other developers as well. I'll see you guys soon.